talk real quickly about managing the skin problems that come along with drug addiction of various sorts. This particular case is a 29-year-old who was admitted for wound care. He was on 25 bags of heroin and fentanyl IV per day. Anxious, cheerful, restless. Was given short-run buprenorphine micro-induction. That's where you start little doses. Gabapentin, which he said is medicine for everything these days. And ketamine, clonidine, Leotard, and a morphine pump just for good measure. And so the withdrawal is not responsive to typical treatments for opioids. Next slide, please. And so naloxone restores the breathing, normalizes the oxygen, the patient remains sedated. And that's the good and the bad thing, right? And when people remain sedated from the drink, then they're continuing to wash the narcotic out of their system. And they wake up more withdrawal than they would have if it hadn't been intended like that. That's why the withdrawal is so much worse, is because they wake up later with withdrawal. Usually people start getting symptoms when they're going to go use again. They don't wake up in time to go use again. Okay. This is a paper by Love, talks about the testing for xylazine and opioids, and xylazine negative patients are more likely to develop a coma within 4 hours of arrival and suffer cardiac arrest. I don't know why that is exactly, if they were actually negative, but so, something to know though. Xylazine positive people were less likely to have cardiac arrest. Go ahead. So, the New York State Office of Addiction Services and Support recommendations for xylazine are the following. Next one, please. Okay, they say, do your naloxone, try to reduce the opioid portion of it. Administered first, followed by rescue breathing. And you want to wait 2 minutes and give a second dose of naloxone to see if the fentanyl just need more than, and if you give 2 doses, then you can go ahead and stop the naloxone and see how you do. Because you probably got all your sites. Next slide, please. Obviously, you want to use face shields and all the usual universal precautions for folks that have drug addiction, because they often have hepatitis or HIV, that sort of thing. You want to always manage your airway, right? Airway's always first. And for the people that are so sedated they're not moving, then you start worrying about skin care also. Next slide, please. You want to reposition people at least every 2 hours to prevent ulcerative compartment syndrome. I've taken care of people that had literally compartment syndrome with the gluteal muscles from being in one position too long, had to have fasciotomies on their butts to release the muscles, take the pressure off, and actually have very good results too. Try to move people around. They put the flexi pulses on people, the foot pumps and the leg pumps, to try to get some blood clots from prevent blood clots. Next slide, please. So, what's the clinical endpoint for reversal? If you haven't gotten anything in 1 or 2 doses or 3 doses, you can stop. You don't want to keep, you don't want to put 6 doses in there, because all you're going to do is create a hard withdrawal from the narcotic portion. There aren't really any other great alternatives here, because the things that really reverse xylazine are not approved in people, so you know what's to go there. Next slide, please. So people get wounds, and they're getting more and more and more of them, right? And people that do IV drugs have always gotten well wounds. They get abscesses, subcutaneous abscesses, they get deeper abscesses. But you see the numbers rising, and xylazine in itself has some very unusual wounds, but not even all at the site. And usually IV drug users, it's the site that gets infected. These guys get them all over the place, particularly on the legs. Next slide, please. So just kind of, ugly looking little ulcerations and wounds. And those are kind of early signs. Keep going there. And then we get these giant things. Look at the size of that. Okay? It's like 10 inches, 12 inches long. And next slide, please. The causes is hard to know. Part of it might be from, it really is local infection. Part of it might be allergic vasculitis from repeated injections. It might be toxic from just some kind of contaminated into medicine that nobody's figured out yet. Also, people sometimes pick at themselves, and that makes it worse. secondary skin infections, compression ulcers, and the fact that they can't heal well because their protein powder malnourished. They have generally poor protoplasm from being malnourished and otherwise not taking good care of themselves. Next slide, please. Okay, this is a little hard to see. Maybe we should put the lights on a little bit. But, you know, obviously you start out, you have eschar there, you have all the dead tissue. I guess we can't put the lights down. Put it down a little so you can see this. You see that hard eschar on there, though, on the left-hand side. And, you know, that's not going to work. You need to get rid of that, right? So you can do sharp and blunt debridement, or you can do, that's good. So people can see there. Good. So you can do sharp and blunt debridement. You can use the water pick, you just use the blade, get it off there. And then it becomes like any other large open wound. Your favorite thing is what you do, right? So you can use soap and water or Xylazine, Dakin solution, which is actually really diluted bleach. And it's peroxide and hydrochloric acid, which is what's in bleach. And acetic acid, which is a vinegar. Or there's also brand name debriders, enzymatic debriders, pretty expensive. You probably won't use those. Once you get it debrided up and get it clean, then you can start thinking about, do you want to use, and you can also use wet to dry things. Because remember, when you have open wounds like that, if you put something wet on there, like take a 4x4 and you soak it in saline, then you put it on there, you let it dry, you come back and pull it off. Only icky stuff comes off. Good tissue won't come flaking off. So you can do repeated debridements of eschar just by doing wet to dry dressings. Labor intensive, you do it 2 or 3 times a day, but it doesn't work. So then you start doing things you do for open wounds, right? You can use like Xylazine, you can use basotrace ointment, you can use non-stick dressings like petroleum gauze or petroleum gauze that's impregnated with, you've got the white and the yellow. The yellow has bismuth in it. Bismuth is an antibacterial heavy metal, and that's technology that comes to you from like 200 years ago, but it still works. That's what the yellow stuff is, it has bismuth in it. But it doesn't stick with it as Vaseline. And that'll give you a nice, help you keep the neighborhood nice too, and let things start to get granulated. If you get it clean enough, you can think about grafting. Doing the skin graft, you don't necessarily have to. If you keep it clean enough, it'll just heal on its own. But you want to, the main thing is to get to that middle point there, where there's nice pink granulating tissue, and not all that black stuff like on the left. And on the right, you can see where it's by and large epithelialized in. Next slide, please. Okay, so just to review here, we've talked about the fact that the withdrawal from Xylazine is worse. We talked about how there aren't really an agreed upon strategy for medicines to use. That we know we use our naloxone to get rid of the opioids, but there is no agreed upon treatment for the Xylazine. Nobody's 100% sure what causes the wounds. They could just be pressure ulcers, they could be contaminants, but they're quite impressive when you see them. They're big holes at people. We talked about how you treat them like you treat anyone. You do sharp and blunt debridement, you do local care, try to make an environment that will nourish epithelialization. You can consider grafting. And I want to try to get people into treatment for the skin problems sooner rather than later, because the wounds actually keep getting bigger, so you get them treated. And we talked about getting more awareness for laboratory testing, and perhaps the test strips will get legalized here in West Virginia after all. But mostly, awareness is a big help here, because if people aren't waking up, you kind of have to know why. And increasingly, Xylazine is why. Next slide, please. So we talked about how it's an alpha-2 agonist found increasingly frequently. That sedation is not common. Sedation is common. Naloxone is first line of treatment, but it's not going to reverse Xylazine. There are test strips, and the more people use Xylazine, the more skin problems they have. Next slide. Just references. Thank you for your attention. Anybody have a question? Yes, ma'am.
So our QRs to get help with the program. So if we were doing outreach outreach. I'm just thinking about like, what could we give our people who are injecting or have wounds? We've seen it. What would you suggest that we do for them, or best help them as far as wound care, or what we should keep on?
The easiest thing for people to do at home
Okay.
is going to be wet to dry dressings. That's going to be the easiest thing to do. And you can do that with just saline. The crummy escar stuff will pick off. It won't happen the first time, but like picks off little by little. And if you can get a chance to get them to go to see, surgeon as an outpatient, they can be treated in the office with it probably. But if they don't want to come in, wet to dry dressings. And saline is fine. It doesn't have to be Dakin solution, doesn't have to be that stuff.
Well, we can saline when we can harm reduction, but I was just wondering, like, what can we do? What can we put in our, like, with tortilla, what can we do more on our mobile to make sure that they're clean or have what they need? Because a lot of them don't have water. I mean, a lot of them don't have access. I mean, we give out soap and stuff, but a lot of them don't have that.
So they're on the street, I guess?
I mean, most of between our harm reduction, I mean, some live with family or they're couch surfing or it's not stable, and then they don't have access.
So like when we see them on our mobile unit, I think what Paul's trying to say is, I know we've talked about it before, what should we carry on our mobile unit to get that process started with them, knowing when they leave our site, they don't have those things. Like they don't have the water, they don't have the,
You're not going to win that one, because you probably don't have enough expertise to treating the wounds yourself to take that escar off. And you can pick at it, but never get off or do a good job. It takes a little bit of time to practice getting that clean. So I think all you really can do is do the wet to dry and try to get them to see somebody get it treated. Because once you get it treated off, then you should be able to get going pretty quickly. You can use wound bags too, but you can't use a wound bag on the street. That takes tremendous amount of attention. So wound bags are fine for rich people who happen to be addicts, but not going to work for people on the street. For people on the street, the best you can do is probably wet to dry, and you're not, it doesn't have to be sterile saline because it's a contaminated wound. That's what I try anyhow. You can't win that one. There's no way to take care of a really bad wound like that on the street. It just isn't.
When people have opioid use disorder, with or without wounds, the first thing you really have to do is find a safe, secure place for them to live. Because if they don't have that, and if they're living on the street or they're living in a shed behind their cousin's house or something like that, you can't successfully treat them. They need a place to be, keep their wounds clean. They need a place to keep their medicine safe. So what I do is, just down the road from us, we have a Salvation Army facility, and they'll take you for 30 days and help you. They'll give you food, give you clean clothes, help you find a job. And if you don't get a job at the end of 30 days, they'll hire you. But sadly, there are some people that say, no, I don't really like to work. I think I'll just go to a different shelter or go back to the street.
Yes, sir.
So you had mentioned that the manufacturing means of manufacturing Xylazine, the ingredients to synthesize it are coming from China, but not the substance itself, correct?
That's what the DA said.
Okay.
That's what the DA said 2 months ago.
Okay.
And they made an announcement they're going to work to stop the Xylazine components from coming into America from Mexico into America. That's what they said about 2 months ago.
So the follow-up to that, is there any evidence to suggest that, okay, so I'm immediately, like with the wounds and everything, I'm drawing parallels to morphine and crocodile when that was happening in Russia. I know that there's limited data.
Yeah, that's amazing. That crocodile is different. The crocodile.
Different crocodile.
It's a different crocodile, but the same thing.
Yeah, right, okay. But I'm wondering, because I know that the problem, the reason that was, having problem issues, the way that they were synthesizing the morphine, and basically in backyard labs, like the impurities were causing that. Is there any evidence to suggest that that's what's happening inside the state, that it's being improperly synthesized, or just?
There's people that suspect that, but nobody's proved it.
Okay.
Is it prolonged use? Is it one time they get it? You know, is it
No,
over
it's
time?
usually over time.
No,
Okay,
yeah,
it's just by happenstance that it might be in the.
The database.
If they keep using it, it hasn't ended, it won't heal, does it heal?
You can do it, you can more.
Yeah, some of them, in the case studies, people describe how they kept using it, and all of a sudden, they started to see big areas of flesh just fall off of their, off of them.
The Russian stuff is petroleum based stuff.
So, we talked a little bit about Xylazine, but, you know, it's really important, you guys have quick response teams now. And in America, the only place that has had success, where in 2021, the rest of America had a 50% increase in overdose deaths, but Greater Cincinnati didn't have that increase at all. In fact, they had a decrease. So the quick response teams have, at least there, have been very, very, very successful. So, you know, getting to that person in the first day or two after they've gone through recovery. They've had naloxone. I'm not sure why. People often tell me that the individuals, after they've given naloxone, they are not quite ready for buprenorphine naloxone yet, but the patients I have, they hate that withdrawal so much that they're willing to take anything I offer them to feel better immediately. And with buprenorphine naloxone, I can make them feel better in 20 minutes. So, you know, you might try that. I mean, the problem is after these people revive, particularly in the ER, we have cases in Pennsylvania where by the time they walk to the end of the driveway of the hospital, they meet a friend and take some more opioids and overdose again. So the sooner you can get them into treatment with buprenorphine naloxone, the better. Getting people jobs can help them succeed. Getting people back to school will help them succeed. And you know, following those 12-step rules, like stay away from the wrong places, the wrong people, really help them succeed. You know, you don't have to go to 12-step to learn that. You can learn that through counseling. You can learn that through your church group. There's many different ways. But we're really successful. We have some incredible success rates. I won't bore you, but I'll give you two. One was a woman, she's very attractive, and she just flunked out of college. And she came with her boyfriend 4 years ago. And he wasn't really interested in stopping using heroin, but she was. And he just came along because he wanted to have a beautiful girlfriend. So he drops out after a couple months, and she says, you know, I think I'd really like to be a nurse. I said, well, that's great. You live in New York State. In New York State, you can be on Suboxone and be a nurse. Some states have rules that you can't be on Suboxone and be a nurse, but the Justice Department has been suing those states. Like Indiana, they won a lawsuit earlier in the year. They were suing Pennsylvania Medical Board, lets people be on Suboxone. But anyway, back to the nurse. I said, well, and you live by Jamestown, New York. They have a 2-year RN program. You can go there for free because you make less than $100,000. She said, nah, I blew those first 2 years of that when I was using the heroin, so I can't get the free for the first 2 years. But she said, I can work, work weekends. So she goes to school for 2 years. She graduates last summer. She starts at $50 an hour. $50 an hour. And her job is to just give shots. She gives COVID shots, flu shots, pneumonia shots. She gives all shots, all day long. So, I mean, that's a real success story. But I have another gentleman, and he was 21. His mother used to bring him in. He had no car, no money, no insurance, and she would bring him in and she'd pay for him. And again, this is about 9 years ago. But, he got better and better, and he got a job, another job, and now he's married, he has a child, he has a house, he has a dream job. His job is to find out new products that can contain maple syrup. And then he makes new products and he drops them off at the office, like maple syrup vinaigrettes, for example. serve coffee didn't go over, but it was good. So we have many, many people that have these tremendous success stories. So if you can just get the person into treatment, it helps them so, so much. And by doing that, you're helping yourself in many other ways. We don't have the slides here, but people that leave in jail are 56 times more likely to overdose. They're also more likely to commit a crime during that first month when they leave jail because they need to have the money to buy the drugs. And these people steal incredibly well. I had 2 young men. They stole from Walmart and Target $125,000 worth of merchandise in 90 days. I mean, that's like taking out, a couple of widescreen televisions every day. And that makes everything more expensive for all of us. So when you get these people in recovery, their lives get better, life expectancy goes up, you treat their smoking so they save money, they're saving $300 a month on cigarettes. They become productive citizens, they have good jobs, everything gets better, they get their children back. It's just a wonderful situation. So, you want to get these people into treatment as quickly as you can with your teams, and if you can find any physicians that are willing to have weekend hours, that really helps, since these people are going to be seen once a month. Any other questions?
I would just like to ask Kelly how the testing is going at CAMC, because I know that, you guys have been doing, the Xylazine testing and stuff, and what we're seeing, hospital-wide is for your patients on Xylazine.
I don't know that I can answer that, Tina. I don't know that I have the details on that, to give you. I know we're doing testing, but I don't know what the current rates are, results are.
Yeah, because I'm not sure, maybe Capital Crew knows, or is Capital, are their hospitals testing, or, if anybody at Capital's testing for Xylazine? Yeah. I knew CAMC was, because we had gotten a report about some of the positives in Off Cabin and Greenbrier, so I was just curious to see how that looks. Yeah. And then, QRTs, are you guys seeing these types of wounds in Capital, and Jackson's not seeing it, say it is?
So we actually have a question, but I can be loud. So Marisa and I, as we told you, we're like the medical component of our QRT at Huntington. And we were wondering if there's any training that we can take beyond what we've got, like we understand what's direct testings and all of that, that we could use, because we do a medical outreach every other Thursday at our city mission, beyond what we're able to do there. So we do basic cleaning, we don't do straight debridement though. But if there's any online or even in-person trainings that we can do, just we'll let someone hear of. Okay. Right, okay. But we actually had a client that had a really bad wound and she was doing her own, rough.
Trying to LP response to that.
What is it?
The LP response network.
Opiate response.
Local response, they get saved some money to give that good space, teaching and training how to treat opioid use disorder complications, and methamphetamine use disorder complications. So they might be able to hook you up with a surgeon or a semi-large surgeon, things that you can do.
Basically, we're just treating that as something else, right?
Yeah. That's it, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Okay, so I wanted to make sure everybody signs in. Tons of food left. Take it with you when you go. I will send out the PowerPoint and the recording of today's meeting with all their contact information. So if something else comes up later on, we're also working with several groups to put together a fentanyl fact sheet, so I'm gonna also ask if we can do a Xylazine, fact sheet as well, because there's so much misinformation out there, and I wanna make sure that boots on the ground has the correct information. So just make sure all of your emails are on there so that I can get the information to you. If you need anything, reach out to us, and I think we have some new great contacts for West Virginia that are in the trenches learning all the up-to-date things. So I want to thank them for coming here this evening, and thank all of you for coming, so we can give them a round of applause. That would be awesome. All right, everybody have safe travels. They'll be around for a couple minutes if there's anything else you want to discuss, and I thank you all for coming. Bye.